Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we were discussing a model that launched in 2020 and has quickly captured the imagination of watch buyers. But this is not the standard steel Submariner. This is the white gold Rolex Oyster Perpetual Submariner date 126619LB, officially the successor to the famous Smurf. This watch combines a blue Cerachrom bezel with a black lacquer dial and a new 41mm gray gold case. We'll talk about gray gold more in a minute, but it's basically a homogeneous 18-karat white gold alloy. The watch, in terms of thickness, is 12.3. In terms of span, 48.2 millimeters from lug to lug, and if you include the solid end links, the watch measures 51.3 millimeters, and it has a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Zoom out a little bit, move up the camera, throw it on the wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see that it sits quite nicely. Now, while it's technically a 41 and the old watch was a 40, the fact is I've measured this watch in every dimension, and the lug-to-lug dimension is the same. The thickness is the same. The end link to end link distance is 7/10 of a millimeter broader, and at the bezel, the watch is 7/10 of a millimeter larger, all of which is to say this watch looks and wears identically to the last one. It's not a millimeter larger, it's more like fractions of a millimeter. Easy enough to wear here. I think you could wear this on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference, and it will fit underneath a dress cuff. Taking a look at the Oyster bracelet right here, you can see it's polished down its center with polished faces, satin flanks, removable links fixed by screws, and all solid link. That's long been the case in modern Rolex watches. The clasp, milled out from the solid. It has a lift lock system internally with that beak and a hook. It latches once. You can't actually pop it open. You do have to unlatch it. So it's got this short, tight second latch, the clamshell. Now you can see polished flanks, satin shoulders, polished straight through. There's a little curve so you can dig your fingernail in and pop the clamshell. And then there's a glide lock system. This has not changed from generation to generation. 20 millimeters of total adjustability, 2 millimeter increments. You can use it for small sizing adjustments, or you can fold it out all the way to fit it over a dive suit or even a thick winter coat. And as you can see, there's a half link built in, removable links fixed by screws. You've got the glide lock system, so quite a few means of adjusting the size. Gray gold. Rolex makes its own clasp, its own bracelet, its own cases, and it has its own foundry, which means it smelts its own gold. Gray gold is white straight through, unlike conventional white gold, which is sort of milky yellow and needs to be rhodium plated to look silver white. Gray gold is a little bit of a warmer tone than rhodium plated white gold, but it is white all the way through. That is straight through the case, so if it gets scratched, the same color is right underneath, and it never needs to be plated. You can see we have here a trip lock crown, and you can see that it is a white gold trip lock crown. Gold, small flanking dots, and a large center dot. Invert that and you would have trip lock in platinum. Now taking a look at the case, you can see this is the super case profile. The lugs have been tapered a little bit. The end link of the bracelet was expanded slightly. The lugs were thinned out. You can see this is a pre-owned watch. There's a small mark on the lug adjacent to my finger. Always want to be clear about condition. Now the timepiece, of course, thinner lugs, a little bit more elegant, but it's still the super case. Polished flanks, satin hoods, and a sharp break between them. The timepiece features a knurled bezel that's actually alternately polished and satinated. You can see within the recesses as well as the underside of the bezel, satination, but along the top, you can see it's all of high polish. 120 click. Very crisp, but also very smooth, a nice refined action. In my experience, Grand Seiko, Cartier on its one dive watch, and Rolex on its divers have the most premium feeling bezels that managed to combine a sharp and distinct indexing with a silky glide. So that's a feather in its cap, and 120 click, very easy to place. Line up the sapphire capped bezel pearl with the minute hand. You've got a count up 0 to 60 minute timer. The bezel insert is blue ceramic, and all of the wells are filled with a small amount of platinum so that the markings can never oxidize or fade. The ceramic is very scratch resistant and protects the watch. The dial is black lacquer. The indices as well as the hands are white gold to resist tarnish and oxidation over time. It is a 300-meter diver, and yes, I know 1,000 feet and 300 meters are not the same. Press the I believe button, and then, of course, with all new debuting revised Rolex models since 2018, you've got that little crown between Swiss and made. You have hacking or stop seconds, you have a quick set date, and inside the case, underneath a solid white gold case back, the new caliber 3235. 70-hour power reserve now using the Liga-formed chronometer escapement, basically Rolex's answer to Omega's coaxial. It beats away at 8 beats per second, It pivots on 31 jewels. The winding system, still bidirectional, now uses a rotor bearing rather than a jeweled staff for greater shock resistance, also contributing to shock resistance. The free sprung balance and the full balance bridge. It uses a overcoil hairspring made by hand, Breguet overcoil, to help the watch achieve outstanding performance in the COSC chronometer test, but also to pass with flying colors Rolex's 6-position fully assembled watch in-house test, and the watch is guaranteed to run no worse than -2 + 2 seconds per day when it leaves the factory. The hairspring is highly anti-magnetic in a blue oxidized niobium zirconium alloy, and the watch is both Rolex's superlative chronometer certified in-house and externally COSC certified. And of course, the movement is relatively thick and relatively tough, which is what you want in a sports-style watch. Reach out to Team Also at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with Rolex Chromalight Blue Lume on the blue white gold sub.